Head over to BoardGamePrices.com to find the best prices for both Azuls and thousands of other games. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Well, Azul is a game that's very popular and it won the Spiel des Jahres and many people love this game. I've reviewed it in the past, but now there is a new standalone version of Azul called the Glass of Sintra, and it just came out at Essen. I had a chance to play this game at a convention last week, so I wanted to give you a comparison of what I thought between the original Azul and the new standalone version of this Azul game. So I'm going to give you a quick 1-minute overview of both and then do a comparison. Now I don't have the new Azul, again I played it at a convention, so I'm going to be using some graphics and such to try to give you a feel for what's different, so let's go. Azul is an abstract strategy game for 2 to 4 players where every player will have their own board that they're building these beautiful tiles on. On your turn, you'll either be drafting all the tiles from the same type from a factory, pushing the rest to the center, and adding those to your board, or you'll be taking all the tiles from the center of one type. At the end of the round, you'll be placing finished rows onto the board to build a beautiful mosaic. All additional tiles get removed from the game, and if you've gotten too many, you'll be getting minus points. And this continues until one player has finished a horizontal row, and you'll get bonuses for having 5 of the same tile, also for having horizontal rows completed, and for also having columns completed. Azul, the Glass of Sintra, has many of the same core mechanisms of the original Azul, but there are a lot of differences as well. You'll still be taking all of one color of tiles from one of the rings, pushing all the others into the middle, or taking all of one color from the middle, just like Azul. But everyone has a pawn on the top of their own board, and you can only place tiles below that pawn or below it to the right of it. But now, instead of taking tiles on your turn, you can move your pawn all the way to the left, opening up all new options for your future turns. And when you finish a column, you'll get points for that column and every other column to the right that you've already finished that game. Then that column will flip and it will be a different puzzle to solve. There's also 2 completely different ways to score bonus points at the end, which makes the game feel very different each way. And each round, the round indicator shows you which color, if you finish, will get you extra bonus points. And each time you have to break glass, meaning you can't put it all on your board, you move down a track which gets you more and more negative points at the end of the game. And taking the first player marker from the middle now moves you down that track instead of just losing you 1 point. So it definitely has more going on, more mechanisms, but also gives it a deeper game with more choices. Alright, now I want to preface this by saying, if you haven't seen my Azul video, this was a game that I enjoyed, I liked, I thought it was fine. By the time I had actually played it, it already had so much hype that I felt like the hype was too big for what the game was. Then the game won the Spiel des Jahres, and I thought, okay, cool, I'm glad, I'm happy it won. Didn't change my opinion. I still think the game is a good game. I didn't think it nearly deserved all the praise that it did get. I thought it was fine. If you came up to me and played the game, wanted to play the game, I would absolutely play with you. I didn't dislike the game. I liked it. I just didn't think it was nearly as good as what everybody else thought. So I seem to have been in the minority on that. Now I want to preface that because we're going to be comparing it to something else. So here we go. Let's first talk about art and components. In this one, so in the original Azul, they came with those nice big chunky bits. And my only problem with that is that some of them were all real beautiful, had some great patterns, but 2 of them were just boring red and boring blue, and I wish they had just made them all look very pretty. Now this one, the new one, I really liked better because the glass, now you're looking at glass, right? So it's transparent, you can see through it. Each of them has some etching on there that looks very beautiful. I preferred the look and the components of this new version over the old version. Now this one's a very personal thing. You're either going to probably like one better than the other, but I did like this new version better. Those transparent tiles are awesome. I also liked the single scoreboard. In the original one, everyone had their own scoreboard. You had to look around how many points people had, and it's, you know, when you reach out to tiles, your hand could easily hit the cube. Where now it's in a standardized one board that everyone can see everything that's happening, and people aren't going to knock the cubes as easily. So from a component standpoint, I think step up. I like the new version of the new game better. Ease of play and approachability. In this case, the original wins for sure. Azul itself, the original, is very easy, super streamlined. It's easy to teach to anybody. You can teach this game to probably non-gamers very easily. Where this new one is definitely another level, for sure. Now, if somebody knows Azul, you probably have to spend just the same amount of time that you would have to spend to teach someone that had never played Azul. So there's twice as much going on. And so the approachability is not quite there with the new one, but it definitely is with the old one. So the original Azul gets definitely, a better thing there, because you just, it is that much easier to teach. Now let's talk about the play length. In this case, the play length and the ending I'm going to give to the original Azul. I felt like the original was a little bit faster. They're probably in the same realm, but it did feel a little faster. Also, the big thing here is I liked in the original game the flexibility of the timing of the end of the game, because it depended on what players did and when people filled certain things up. And I thought that was cool, where the new version, you just play 6 rounds, you know it's over, and that's that. So I actually liked the timing of the end of the game and the play length better with the original Azul. Now, gameplay. This is where, for me, the new Azul stained Glass of Sintra really, really shines, and by far outdoes the original Azul in my opinion. So let's talk about the reasons why. I think the new version here, the new game, has many more interesting choices. I think you've got, your pawn you're thinking about. You're thinking about, I can only go to the right. You're thinking about what color is this round's bonus. Maybe even thinking a round ahead and trying to get things. Looking down at, depending on what bonus you chose for that game, whether it's the clump of 4, or whether it's the, trying to get the most of one color and trying to think of things through. I just felt like this game it's not too much more complex. There's definitely more going on, but I felt it really made the game much more interesting. The choices were more interesting. I liked trying to figure out the timing of finishing that, that column at the right time. I liked, I felt like I had more control. In the original Azul, I felt too many times certain people did certain things, and when it came to my turn, I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm just taking all these tiles and I'm just getting a bunch of negative points. Where here, I felt like I had more control. I could see what was going on. I could see where other players' pawns were. I could be like, oh, okay, I'm going to put my pawn back on the left now. That's probably going to force them to do things they don't want to do. That's going to give me some more options. I just felt like it gave me more control and felt less random. Now, that might not be true. You might actually still have the same amount of control or lack of thereof, but it gave me the illusion that I had more control, and I felt like I didn't get stuck with things quite as nearly as often as I didn't want to, like in the first original version. So I think I had more control here a lot. The 2 different bonus types, I like that you can either play with those clumps of 4 getting you bonus tracks, or you're trying to get the most of one color and trying to finish columns, because when you finish them the second time, they get removed, and that really parlays into a different bonus. And I felt like when you play that game with those 2 different bonuses, you actually play it very differently, and your strategies change, and I think that's really cool. Also, the variability. Sure, in the original, you could flip it over and you could change which way, where you put the tiles and such, but you were still somewhat limited as where you're putting what. I felt like this, everyone starts sort of in a different way. It's randomized where they are, what side they're up. So everyone's starting with a very different puzzle. And then as the game goes on, that puzzle is going to continue to change. So for me, this has a lot more replayability, because every game really is going to feel very different, because that puzzle's always changing. Even from the start, So I think that's a really cool thing. So because I felt all of those things, for me, Azul did a couple of things in my comparison here that I liked better for sure. But in the end, it really comes down to gameplay for me. I did not keep Azul. It's not one that I wanted to play a lot. I liked it fine, but that's it. This is one I'm absolutely going to be keeping in my collection when I get it, because I think it's fantastic. So the winner for me is Azul Stained Glass of Sintra. I just think that for an abstracted game, it does so much more than the original. And it makes me wonder if this was like the original game that was brought to Plan B, and they were like, well, you know what, let's see if we can streamline this up and try to hit that Spiel des Jahres weight, stuff like that. Part of me wonders if that's it, or did they come back to him later and say, let's make something bigger and better? I don't know. Now, even though I like this one better, I did talk with other people at the convention about who's played both, and it was roughly 50-50, where some of them really liked the original much better. Some of them felt like this new version of Azul just was just too many moving parts. One person called it Fiddly Azul. I did not feel that at all, but about 50% of the people like the original better. So do you need to own both? I wouldn't think so. I think these are close enough that you need to find out which one is right for you and the people that you play the games with. And it's interesting because usually I like more lighter, streamlined games, and this is still a light, streamlined game. It's just not quite as light as the original, not quite as streamlined as the original. So for me, I actually like the heavier version with more going on, which surprises me because I usually like the other side. But I really think the extra choices makes a big difference. So that's it. Azul, the stained glass of Sintra is my choice between the two of these. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships through board games by helping you find the next one you'll love. Upgrade every game you play with the ultimate gaming accessory, Game Toppers. Shipping now. Check them out at GameToppersLLC.com.